Hey Yardners! Follow along as I install a PVC trellis and I'll share my super easy and quick way to install. But first, why PVC pipe? Well, it's durable, cost-effective, versatile, and portable. It has held up in my yardens during heavy winds, storms, and hurricanes, hello Milton, and survived our brutal Florida sun without getting brittle, which is super important. So the Schedule 40 10-foot long, 1-inch diameter size pipe that I use is fairly cheap. Not as cheap as it used to be, but still good. Um, if you want to get fancy with your designs, though, it is the connectors are what can get costly. So yes, versatile, lots of cool designs to be done. Just remember the cost of the connectors can add up quick. Like in this trellis I'm putting in here, I'll put up a picture. If you look at the top corners, I opted not to use horizontal cross pieces just to keep the total cost under a certain dollar amount. But function and stability weren't sacrificed. And it will also depend on what vines you're actually putting in for that trellis. Some vines will just grow straight up and then make a nice shelf on the top and they'll just sit up there, and other ones are more grabby and they have more tendrils. So for something like that, I like to cover the sides with chicken wire. I've even used in a pinch twine and yarn just to fill in those gaps. And of course, it'll have to be changed out every season or so, but it works. Anyway, so the last PVC Pro is portability. I have a small sedan and I can't transport those large cattle panels that everyone else seems to be using these days. So PVC pipe, perfect. Even if I do have to run it from the back windshield corner out to the passenger side window, we make it work. And not just buying it, but I recently had to move and I had 7 trellises. Not total, just PVC trellises to take down and move. And it was so easy just to disconnect the pieces and bundle them up with zip ties and move them. So yeah, once you have your trellis built, this is how I install mine. And after a few trials and errors in the past, this is my tried and true go-to. So you'll need a hammer or a mallet, pliers, and a piece. So, okay, a piece of PVC pipe that is the same size and strength as what your trellis is. The strength is the schedule. And it needs to be cut to the length of how deep you want your trellis. So I always go 1 foot deep, and that's what mine is here. But it'll also depend on what your soil is like. So if you have nice, soft, smushy soil, you probably aren't in Florida. But if by some miracle you do, I would definitely go 1.5 to 2 foot deep. This here, what I'm playing in, it's some weird builder's fill mixed in with natural clay and sand. Now my old house, the ground was really rooty and a lot of natural limestone. So a foot is pretty much all I could, it's as far as I could go. But once, anything was in, it wasn't going anywhere. Just like this, all the sand will help keep it in place. So yeah, once you have that, also mark on your trellis. That's what I showed earlier, if you could tell. I measured the bottoms, the ends of the trellis, with permanent marker and marked it off so I know it was actually going to go as deep, as I want it to. So when you have your trellis made, obviously mark off where it's going to go so you know where to make the holes. And once you have that, you're good to go. You just start hammering in your 1 foot or whatever size depth you want pipe into the ground, just making sure it stays vertically level, just make sure it's straight. And, if not, you can hammer on the sides just to get it, back on track and just hold it in the rest of the way. But you just want to go all the way till it's level to the ground, and you're just going to use your pliers to pull it right back out. And repeat as many times as necessary. And then when you're ready, your trellis should just slide right in. Once in though, I would just, you want to tap on the top to make sure it's in there all the way down, but extra bit of security. and use your level. You don't have to. I definitely do, but to see if it's straight, especially after you tamp the soil down around the sides, it can kind of shift a little. Nobody wants a crooked, wonky looking trellis. But anyway, um, you know, quick safety note, watch your fingers. I think that's a given, but I've hit my fingers before. And if you start to do this a lot, that piece of PVC, like the one I'm hammering in now, will get old and may start to crack after being hammered in so much. So maybe wear glasses, sunglasses, safety glasses. I wear glasses anyway, but gloves too, because I have had pipe split in my hand while hammering it in. It did not feel good, but it also was my own fault for using an old cracked piece. And that's earlier, if you saw, there was a big pause and I came back with 2 more pieces because I have so many. The reason I have so many is because I do buy the 10-foot pieces. It's usually cheaper that way, but then I just have leftovers for whatever those little, well, so you're not really going to use a 10-foot piece in your garden anywhere. And even if you put 1 foot on the ground, leaving a 9-foot piece, that's still kind of tall for a trellis. I think the tallest I've used is maybe 8 for indeterminate tomatoes. But anyway, so buying the extra long, the full size 10-foot pieces, you're gonna have leftover pipe to play with, and they're really good for the cross pieces. Like I'll drop pictures in of this trellis. But anyway, that is it. So super easy. I don't know why more people aren't using PVC. I know some people have an issue with plastic leaching into the ground, but pros and cons to everything. Wood will leach, treated wood will leach into the ground. The metal trellises you get from big box stores, those are powder coat. I mean, it's about using what you're comfortable with, your garden, whatever. But yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, suggestions, alternatives, whatever, drop a comment below. Please like and subscribe. Not trying to sell anything here. I just, like to share knowledge with people, because once I've started talking to a lot of people about gardening, people are still clueless and going by what big box stores say, which is geared for the north. And Florida's its own planet over here.